Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 138 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports podcast. Here for you again on another Wednesday night, 7:13 p.m. It's playoff time. No two ways about it. But before we get into plenty of playoff talk across basketball and hockey, Ryan, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. I've got the Red Sox on in the background. I'm fully
That doesn't sound
enjoying.
good.
No, I'm fully just enjoying laughing and having a great time watching first baseman turn shortstop, Bobby Dahlbeck, on his second play in the position, make an error. All he had to do was range to his left. Chris Sale is getting his teeth kicked in again. So it's a lot of fun. Red Sox just at this point are a comical, laughing product. And you are smart. As we remember last week, you said you have not caught a lot of Red Sox games, if any at all, because you just have no interest in them. You're a very smart man for doing so. Unless, again, you want, like, you're down in the dumps, you want to laugh about something, I would highly recommend turning the Red Sox game on. But other than that, like you said, playoffs right around the corner for the Celtics. We know who they're playing with the Hawks. I think you could say upsetting the Heat last night. That was a little bit of a surprise. Obviously, they're still playing games to go with today. We'll kind of get the NBA playoff picture a little clearer. And then Bruins playoff stuff probably won't come until next week because, as you told me last night over text, there really hasn't been anything set in stone yet. Maybe other than like a couple matchups or two, I think, if you remember correctly. So we're just kind of in wait and see mode with that.
Yeah, we will get to those later. Still got some things to be sorted out, including most notably the Islanders game tonight. Win or lose, will decide their fate. They get in if they win. They don't if they don't. So moments of the week. I swear I'm on a roll with the quick ones, so I'll get mine out of the way first. Apparently teams have done this in the past, but this doesn't make this any less lame. Rings for coming in second place in
Participation trophies.
In
Woo!
this case. So dumb. Just sweet and to the point. It's dumb. Why do we do this? I don't really get it. I don't think teams in this scenario and any other sport do it. I don't know why baseball does. It's really stupid. It's a waste of money. It's lame. It's just, there's not really much else I have to say.
I didn't know this was
why are we doing this?
I don't know. I didn't know this was a thing until I saw this as your moment of the week. I had to look it up to see, like, is this something that occurs in baseball? Apparently it does, as you mentioned. The only difference and the smart way to do it, like I feel like every other team has ever done it, is they don't hold a ceremony for it. Like a team that loses the World Series, they'll get their not conference, their league winner rings in like seclusion, like in the locker room. I feel like basically like, hey, this is a nice little consolation prize here. They don't, like the Phillies, like you said, had a full-on celebration like they had won the World Series. So I'm with you. That's pretty corny, pretty stupid. Just keep it to the locker room and a nice little moment within the team. Don't put it out for everyone to see and rightfully roast and make fun of you for, because it looks as dumb as it is.
Yeah, it's just really stupid. Onto other baseball things, though, in moments of the week, you have something that is unfortunate to happen with the Red Sox, but has highlighted something that we could have definitely seen coming with the roster construction of the team.
Yeah, I was gonna say something we've definitely talked about before, and again, it's Chaim Bloom at this point. His inability to put a competitive baseball team on the field at this point in his Red Sox tenure, because of course anybody who watched the game on Easter watched Adam Duvall, who's been probably the Red Sox MVP through the first couple games of the season. He's been excellent, better than you and I both assumed he was going to be. Again, when we talked about the Duvall signing, we're like, oh, he's a good, mid 200 hitter, would be a good power bat for the middle of the lineup. He'll probably hit 20 plus home runs. He's been excellent so far. He's been their best player, and he now has suffered a fractured wrist, going to be out for anywhere between 6 to 8. I saw potentially 10 weeks if they don't want to rush him back the way they're going right now. Maybe they will have to rush him back, because turns out he's been their entire offense. They have not been able to do anything since he's gone out. Like I said, they continue to be a joke tonight, already down 3-0 in the third inning against Tampa Bay. Like you said, it just goes to show that Adam Duvall, a guy that shouldn't be looked at as like a massive part of your lineup. Again, he was hitting fifth, so he's going to be your production guy for the most part. Just goes to show how poorly constructed this Red Sox lineup is. But now he goes out, the lineup is in shambles. You have a night like tonight, where originally you would have had Yoshida in it, but he's dealing with a hamstring problem, so he's out. You have to move some guys around. Leads to Bobby Dahlbeck playing short. Leads to Yu Chang in the lineup more. Raimel Tapia, who had a nice spring training, but again, is not a guy that you should be relying on time and time again to come up in your lineup. Same thing, Rob Refsnyder, nice little player. I like him a lot. Had a great year last year. He was batting fifth last night. Like that's a guy that should be batting either lead off against lefties or you hit him in the bottom of the lineup. Because again, he's not an everyday player. He's not going to produce a ton of runs. You have Kike Hernandez, who you and I could probably hit the amount that he's hitting right now. Leading off at times, still in the lineup, still making errors at shortstop. Like I've said before, would be nice to have a real shortstop. There's just so many holes all across this lineup. Christian Arroyo has turned into the utility player that he should be. He's not an everyday second baseman. You're seeing these problems start to rear their ugly head in this lineup because you don't have enough. And now, like, there's been tweets out there that after the Red Sox get done to this stretch of lefties are going to face, Jarren Duran is coming back to the major league team. He'll be up here. Get another look at him. I feel like he's a guy we kind of know what he is at this point. It's in shambles. Again, that's ridiculous to say with one injury, specifically with Adam Duvall. Again, not like a world lighter on fire or anything like that. But it's just where this team's at right now, where he goes out, your entire lineup goes with it, and you can't seem to pick up the slack, which is ridiculous. And again, just goes into the fact that Chaim Bloom has not been able to put a competitive team on the field the last couple of seasons, and it's started to get, it's already been aggravating, but now it just, again, it sheds even more light on it, and it continues to be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it's just all too predictable, unfortunately. But
yep, I don't get like how, again, they signed him late. We talked about it. It was like they needed a right-handed bat, so they went out and basically got the last available guy. But like the guy's coming off a wrist injury last year, had surgery where he missed half the season, maybe more. He's had injury history in the past. Like it's just the same old thing. You're relying on these guys that are injury prone. Same thing, everyone's talking about the shortstop problem right now with Kike not being able to throw the ball. Not a surprise. He's not a good baseball player. But everyone's like, oh, Trevor Story's going to come back at some point. You still have Adalberto Mondesi.
Oh my God, I forgot again, Trevor Story was on this team.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's it. Exactly. But again, those are two guys right there that huge question marks next to their names because you don't know when they're coming back and you don't know if they'll come back. Again, it's the Red Sox. They're banking on these guys coming back, but like I keep going back to it. I don't think Adalberto Mondesi is going to be as effective as they think he is. The guy's coming off of ACL surgery. His whole game is speed. Like, guy's not going to be able to move, I feel like, coming back from that type of injury like he used to. So it's the same thing. We can get into the whole, we're not going to do it, of course, but like the whole we've talked about before, bargain bin shopping, you go out and get the last possible guy on the market. Maybe they produce for you, maybe they don't. And in this case, you have an injury to a guy who's been injury prone. Now you don't have anything to fall back on except Jarren Duran and guys playing out of position. So it's where this team's at right now. And it's going to be a very long season if stuff like this continues to happen. It probably will because they have no other options. So this is the state of the team currently. It's still doom and gloom. You had a couple of nice games in Detroit against a team that's probably going to be one of the worst in baseball. Other than that, you're getting beat by teams that should be beating you.
Yeah, sweet, isn't it?
Yep, it's awesome. Thank God the Bruins and Celtics have finally got to the playoffs because, like, I'm not going to say I was tired with the regular season, but, like, let's ramp it up here and get to the stuff that matters and piques your interest because that's where we're at right now with those two teams. At least they're positive to talk about.
Exactly. So speaking of those teams, I figured we'll start with hockey because it's not the bigger part of the next couple sections. We'll get through the hockey stuff real quick and then go to basketball.
Yep.
Do our normal thing last of the regular season with the recaps. Bruins beat Toronto in a nice 2-1 OT victory on the 6th. Lafferty scored first for the Leafs, but Coyle tied it in the third, and Pastrnak ended in OT. Swayman made 31 saves and 32 shots, really stepped up. 2 days later, you get New Jersey. Another good team, looking at situations at the time of like moving up and down potentially from the 2 and 3 seeds. So still important games for them, even though they had clinched. Omar made 29 saves and 30 shots, his normal dominant self. And Pavel Zacha 2 times for the revenge game. Jesper Bratt, one of the highlights of the game, though, scored a really nice goal. The only one that beat Omar. He had that crazy sequence of saves where he made like 3 in a row. I think the first one was on Jack Hughes. Maybe the third one was as well. That was pretty nuts. Just peak Omar this season and another win for the Bruins. To reference Frank the Tank, who's a Devils fan. I can't get enough of that guy's Devils videos. Next night, you get Philly on the road. Jeremy Swayman makes 34 saves and 37 shots in a 5-3 victory. This one got off to a hot start. Charlie Coyle scored 47 seconds in, and Allison responded for the Flyers 17 seconds later. Got a pretty crazy fight between Greer and Delorier, 2 tough guys, and definitely the toughest in DeLorean in the league. That guy's an absolute monster.
Mhm.
And Pasternak dropped a hat trick for his 60th goal because that's just the type of season he's having.
He also hates the Flyers. I think we've talked about this before.
Does
Like I feel like half his hat tricks in his career have come against the Flyers, and he always just seems to put up a multi
Yeah.
2-3 point game against them.
I think he's up to like 1.6 points per game against them or something like
It's
pretty
ridiculous.
nuts. He's the 8th player ever to hit 300 goals in his career with a hat trick. That's kind of crazy. I thought the number would be smaller. The first since Ray Whitney on March 6, 2009. I don't know if he was with the Stars, the Coyotes at that time. 15th hat trick of all time, puts him past Neely for second most hat tricks all time for Bruins. Phil Esposito had 26, so he's got some work to do to catch Phil Esposito. And speaking of Phil Esposito, he joins Esposito as the second 60 goal scorer in Bruins history. Esposito had 4 60 goal seasons or 60 plus, 61 in 1 year, 68 in another, 66 and 76. Be pretty remarkable.
That's wild.
Pasternak beat 76 at some point in his career, but he's got some time. Maybe he will. On to Washington, a 5-2 victory. So nice to, after a couple 2-1 games, you run up the score a little bit more. Drop 2 5-goal games in a row. Beat the Capitals 5-2 last night. After tying the record against Philly, they break the record last night. 19 saves and 21 shots. Not a lot going on for Washington. I imagine that number would have been higher if Ovechkin was playing. And then Swayman came in relief when Ullmark left for precautionary reasons, and had a 6-save shutout. And Brad Marchand thankfully broke the 17-game drought. I'm happy it happened before the playoffs. Tyler Bertuzzi got on the board again. He's really gotten comfortable this last week or two. He's got 9 points in his last 7 games. Tomas Nosek had his 100th point and 101st point of his NHL career to set up the Hathaway goal a little while after that. Little Hathaway revenge game, a lot of revenge games this week. And a nice little generous gentleman pass from Marchand to DeBrusk with the empty netter. And DeBrusk is 1 away from tying his career high in the season. And I think he's missed 18 games. So
It's pretty
that's
good.
pretty sick. Guy looking on a 40-goal pace next year if he can stay healthy. Pretty good. Not too bad. But one of the stories in this game was Charlie Lindgren. This game could have been 9-2, but he played his balls off, made a save with his freaking hand, did his best Ullmark impression from New Jersey, made a bunch of subsequent saves. Eventually got hurt, unfortunately. It sucks to see in a game like that. It was a bad night for goalies getting hurt, even though
Just gonna
Ullmark
say
was
that,
fine.
yeah.
Thank God it's precautionary. But Bruins pull it out, the penultimate game of the regular season. And Pavel Zacha won the 7th player award. And that leads me to my next question for you. Would you have voted Zacha for the 7th player award, or would you have not?
Did they give you? I'm trying. I forget how that always works. Do they give you like a group of guys to vote from?
Vote
Like
for anyone.
Oh, okay. So there's nothing because that's what I didn't know. Like finalist wise, who was available for me? It would probably either come down to him or like Foligno or somebody like that, just because of the resurgence that we saw from Foligno this season. But Zacha's obviously shit. The guy had a stellar season out of nowhere, and not nowhere because we assumed he was going to be a decent player for him, but nothing like the lines of what he's done this season. So I probably would have. Yeah, he's had that good of a season.
I honestly would have voted Ullmark.
Can a goalie win it?
Yeah. Swayman won it last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I definitely think you could make a case for that. I mean, the guy's had a pretty good year, I'd have to say. So
yeah, it's not a big deal, but
not in the slightest. We're not going to sit there and be like, that's a
Mm.
stupid decision by you. You can't pick a goalie.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Like,
Zacha's still very deserving as well.
absolutely.
Not to take away from him. And that's the last week of games. They just have Montreal tomorrow. Spoiler alert, win. 65.
And that literally means nothing.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool.
Mhm.
We'll talk about the guy who might be making his NHL debut in this game in a second here. Just some other notes and looking ahead to the playoffs. Congratulations to Quinnipiac, quick college hockey note, but rest in peace to my Minnesota future. A set play 10 seconds into overtime, just a brutal way to lose the future. Really sucks, but what can you do? Credit to Quinnipiac, congratulations to them, even though they're not doing a freaking parade, which is dumb.
What
Even just something on campus. They're not doing a parade. They announced it today.
what was the reason? Just they were too lazy, didn't feel like it?
They're like, yeah, nah, we don't want to do
I
it.
don't really feel like it. That's
Nah,
really
I don't really
lame.
feel like it. Yeah. Pretty
Championship
much.
revoked. Give the win to Minnesota and get your
Yes.
future. There you go.
Yes. That would be sick. That's not how it works, unfortunately.
Mhm.
The Providence Bruins are getting some reinforcements with 2022 fifth round pick Freddie Brunet, Brett Harrison, and Matthew Poitras. The Spitfires got eliminated, number 1 seed in the OHL. So Brett Harrison is on his way to Providence. Matthew Poitras will as well had maybe combined playoffs in regular season 100 points or just shy, which is pretty nuts. And Brunet was the second leading scorer amongst defensemen in the QMJHL. So pretty good. Nice little infusion of youth. Brunet had a season that surprised me quite a bit for a guy not knowing a lot about him, but pretty cool. Olmark is almost definitely not traveling to Montreal. So Brandon Bussey was recalled on an emergency basis again. He was also named to the AHL All-Rookie team with Georgi Mikulov. The undrafted free agent signings paying off for the Bruins big time in Providence. And Bussey seems like might make his NHL debut tomorrow against Montreal, which makes tons of sense. There's really nothing Swayman can gain from the last game of the season against Montreal.
Yeah, to echo that, I was just going to say if that's the case, I'm 100% fine with it. You sit as many guys as you possibly can, or the NHL allows you to. Like I said, you're playing for literally nothing in this game. You can't go anywhere. You can't break any more records. You can obviously make it harder for the next team to try to break a record with an extra win and a couple extra points. But like at this point, you're looking to come out of the rest of the regular season as healthy as possible. So if you're going to sit a bunch of guys, absolutely do it.
Yeah, makes just plenty of sense. Shout out to Ignacio Cruz Zuniga in the chat from Facebook saying love with a heart. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Love the support. But yeah, Brandon Bussey. I mean, a guy who came from Western Michigan, I believe, last year, has played in the ECHL and AHL and dominated. So cool to see him get rewarded if he does start tomorrow night. And a couple other additional agenda items. The field of teams is narrowed down a little bit from last week as Buffalo was eliminated last night. It's down to the Islanders, Panthers, or Penguins for the Bruins, with their stakes at the highest now as the Islanders are playing for their lives tonight. Which begs the question, is your status on who you would rather play of these three teams changed at all, or is it the same?
Nope, still the Penguins.
Yep, still the
Still
Penguins.
think that's I know they have probably the most experience out of all these teams remaining. The teams obviously the Bruins could play, but like they're the weakest team out of the three for me. I think the Bruins showed in the regular season they can beat this team in pretty much all facets of the game, especially physicality wise. I think if it's Pittsburgh, they stand. None of these teams stand a chance. Don't get me wrong, but the Bruins could I feel like just run over Pittsburgh if that's the team they end up playing.
Yeah, especially with the Panthers playing so well lately too. You'd like to avoid them if you can, but like you, I echo the sentiment. I think the Bruins are going to beat any team they get in the first round.
Yep,
with a good deal of ease for the most part. Knock on wood. So that status stays the same. We might not even have to worry about the Islanders after tonight. So we'll see what happens if the Canadians can pull it off. All the Islanders need is 1 point. That's it. Even if they suck, they can just get it to overtime. They're in. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. You suggested this earlier. Bruins MVP, breakout player, most improved, and most disappointing. I will defer to you to start.
Yeah, I saw this on Twitter. I think it was from Bruins Wine is how you say it. Posed the question, and I thought with obviously like I said, no set in stone playoffs minus one series to talk about. We just kind of do this and then go from there. So as you ran down the categories, MVP, it was tough for me. I went back and forth with Pastrnak and Olmark, but I think you can make the case. I know stat-wise it's not the same. Olmark had a fantastic season. He's probably going to win the Vezina. Although there's still people on Twitter that I keep seeing think other people should win it. I saw somebody say Connor Hellebuck today, which no, that's not going to happen. But like Swayman, we've talked about this before, and we said this last week. I think you could argue that Swayman's probably Olmark's biggest competitor for Vezina with how well Swayman played down the line. Like you had two phenomenal starting caliber goalies. MVP for me is Pastrnak, what he was able to do, not carry the offense when obviously guys like Marchand and people were out at the start of the year, but the guy's got 60 plus goals. He's been excellent since day one. I don't know
as many
how
goals as like your next highest scorer almost has
exactly.
points.
Like he's
Like,
my clear cut MVP. And again, that's not to take away from what Allmark did, but like,
I get you. I mean, how could you not? 100-point score, pretty nuts. Looking at maybe 110. My MVP was also Pasternak. It just has to be.
Okay, fair enough. I thought you might go goalie just to change it up a bit, but like you said, it's really no argument against. Like Pasternak's been so great this season. Breakout player for me, Zacha. Like breakout player was tough for me because I mean we've seen guys like Charlie Coyle have good years before. I mean he was excellent this season, so maybe you could argue that. I thought DeBrusk maybe because of what obviously happened with DeBrusk last year, the ups and downs just from a play standpoint. This year obviously he's taking his game to another level, like you said earlier. But I mean the guy won the 7th player award. How can you not make it Zacha? I mean, we talked about him going into the year. Nice player. Didn't really know what to expect from him. I think he kind of exceeded expectations and then some this season.
Yeah, I agree. To me, like I said, with the 7th player award, though, it's Allmark for breakout player.
Okay.
I don't think anybody expected a season like this. He doesn't even have double-digit regulation losses. He has a sub 2 goals against, almost 940 save percentage. He scored a freaking goal. He's ridiculous. Like nobody could have expected this. It's neck and neck between him and Zacha for different reasons, but I'm going to give the nod to Allmark.
Allmark is a good one. Maybe it's just the goalie factor, but I for some reason overlooked that. But again, very well could easily argue for both guys. Most improved, I went Trent Frederick, a guy we talked about last year. I think you and I were probably on the downs with, making dumb plays, taking stupid penalties. Was a guy that we talked about, I think, before, couldn't put in the lineup because at times he may have been a liability. This year, I think he turned around in a lot of people's minds. Mine definitely is a guy that I think is going to be a main staple of your lineup moving forward because he's stepped it up in just the offense, defense. He's not taking dumb penalties anymore. He now knows when to fight and when to pick fights with guys. It seems like a great season for Frederick, and you hope, moving forward, there's going to be some questions at center with this team. Maybe he's a guy that you can slot in there and play really well because that's what he did this season.
Yeah, for me, it's Frederick too. I don't really know how you can pick anyone else. Maybe a little bit more for Foligno if he was healthy recently, but Foligno's been in the league much longer than Frederick. So I got to give the nod to Frederick here. I mean, he has played awesome in a contract year, so he's going to get paid for it.
Absolutely. Disappointing was tough. I mean, because what's really to be disappointed about in a 60-plus win season? Absolutely, you're breaking records left and right. I saw people on Twitter say Craig Smith, but I mean, maybe I went on the technicality because he didn't finish the year as a Bruin. I also wasn't expecting a lot, as we know, anyone who listens to the show, from Craig Smith. I went Taylor Hall tough because I know a lot more people, more so than you and I, were kind of tough on Hall this season for the production standpoint. Obviously, the guy's hurt now, so that kind of stinks as well. But I went with him again just because it was tough to pick one. And from a production standpoint, there were some pretty lengthy lulls throughout the season. So I feel like it's got to be him just, again, off of the slim pickings that we probably had for this team.
Yeah, I don't know how you can really like pick anyone else, and that's not a slight to Hall. I have Hall too.
Okay.
He just, the health kind of slowed things down, which is, not out of his control, but he had some hills and valleys in production this year. I think last night was one of his best like effort games. He had a couple shifts like where he does this every once in a while where he will like buzz around the ice for what feels like 2 full minutes, not stopping. Because he's just such a powerful skater. He did that last night looking like his old self. They're going to need him to look at his old self in the playoffs. And I hope he does.
As we said before, I think he will. He was one of your better players last year. Really stood out of time. So I think, and the guy's probably hungry to play. Hasn't played in a couple of months. So get him back to where he was. He'll be good. Player to watch for in 2023-24. I went Lauko just because we saw him in a short sample size this year. And every time he was out there, he looked like a guy, obviously, that was, you've said it before, wanted a roster spot, fighting for a roster spot, and proved I think he should be, whether it's on the 4th line, maybe they move him up to the 3rd line next year. I debated going Steen, but I feel like, again, there's just so many question marks around, if he's going to get a chance to play at all, just because of how, of course, loaded this team is. But Lauko, I think, really showed some stuff when he was given the opportunity this season. I think he's a guy that could potentially be, maybe the consideration for a breakout player next year.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I picked Tyler Bertuzzi, but the thing with Lauko is I think ice time might limit him. But yeah, if he's probably going to get like at least 60 games next year. if not more. So we'll see what happens. There's no guarantee they keep Tyler Bertuzzi, but with how things have gone, if they can keep Krejci around too, or even if Zaka's the second line center next year, if he's playing with Pastrnak for a full season, like we've seen,
Look out.
they're getting pretty scary together. Just to put it out there, I've seen people talk about this. I am not in the camp of wanting to keep him on the second line when they're fully healthy. I think he'll do just fine, and he'll provide an interesting dynamic of toughness and like snarl next to Hall and Coyle. And Zacha Krejci Pastrnak is a great connection as well. I think you're more likely to get, really good production with, Hall and Bertuzzi on the wings versus like Hall and Zacha. I think Bertuzzi would fit in on a third line role a little bit better, which might sound weird to people, but like, I don't know. I love the Bertuzzi Pasta combination, but I think you want to keep a good thing going with Zacha. And he's been with them for so long now. Like the last 3 months, he's been very consistently stapled to the second line. I think keep it that way in the playoffs. And I think Bertuzzi will do just fine on the third line. And who knows, maybe they keep Bertuzzi and Pastrnak on a power play unit together. So
it wouldn't be the worst thing on the planet.
That's
I'm with
a logical solution.
Yeah, I've spread those guys out. I mean, again, we've talked about it before. I'm pretty sure you have the possibility to roll out 3 potential first lines. Like that's a luxury to have and then some. So you can't go wrong with whatever they have right now, as we've seen this entire season. Like not a lot going wrong with the team. And why if nothing's broke, why would you try to fix anything?
Exactly. And just a couple quick playoff notes that I forgot about. As of now, the only playoff matchup set in stone is Toronto-Tampa Bay. So we have some waiting to do. It's anyone's guess who's going to come out on top in the Central. Colorado and Dallas both have 2 games left. Minnesota, if Colorado and Dallas lost out and Minnesota won out, could win the division. So that's an interesting one to monitor. Edmonton could take the number 1 seed in the Pacific. LA is stuck in third, so they'll play whoever gets second. Seattle and Winnipeg are now clinched, so those wildcard spots are wrapped up. And yeah, we're just in flux after that. I mean, New Jersey can win the Metro if they win and Carolina loses. So we'll see what happens. But it's kind of crazy how things are coming down to the wire like this.
Yeah, very last day. I mean, we do know the Bruins, I think, are Monday, Patriots Day, the nightcap. That's their first playoff game, so that'll be fun. I was curious as to why, and we'll get into it with the Celtics stuff in a bit here, but like game 1 for the Celtics is Saturday. They don't play again until Tuesday. I'm like, why is there a 3-day off? Bruins have Monday night at the Garden. So that'll be fun to obviously watch the Garden transform over hopefully the next couple of weeks and a month or so, maybe, with how far both teams go in the playoffs, but that'll obviously be something to keep an eye on.
Yep, absolutely. And next week we'll have our full predictions and other stuff to talk about, and some Bruins games or a game to talk about.
Yep, it's the same as last year. Like I said, I texted you last night. The outline when I looked at it from this time last year was, I think, game 1 after was it the Carolina series they played first round of the playoffs. Maybe whoever they played first round of last year's playoffs, that was where we were at. But yeah, it is kind of tough to do an NHL playoff preview when, like you said, there was only one set in stone series. Can't really predict anything when there's nothing to predict.
Yeah. Honestly, that's it. Nice way to wrap it up as we segue to basketball.
Yeah, we're going to try to predict. I mean, there is a couple of series that have not been set in stone in there, so maybe a bad segue. But we'll try to predict a couple of things with the play-in tournament, of course, going on tonight. We saw who the Celtics are going to play last night. The Atlanta Hawks, they said when we started this, again, to some maybe, knocked off Miami in a bit of a surprise upset, 116-105. Good balanced scoring attack from the Hawks. 7 out of 9 players ended up in double figures, including 25 from Trae Young, 18 from DeJounte Murray, and 17 from Sadiq Bey. A nice pickup there for them. On the flip side, Miami only had 4 of their 10 players end up in double figures. Kyle Lowry, who was maybe on the outs in Miami, had a great game, 33 points. He's a guy I feel like that just kind of steps up on the playoffs. That's kind of his MO at this point. Tyler Hero had 26, Jimmy Butler 21, and Bam Adebayo had 12. He was held in check. Miami, of course, will have a chance to still get in the playoffs as the 8th seed. They're going to have to await the winner of tonight's Bulls and Raptors game. We'll talk about a little bit about that in a second. On the Western Conference side of things, the Lakers, led by a great attack by LeBron James, 30-point game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks. Anthony Davis played great in the second half. He finished with 24 points and 15 rebounds, a double-double there. As the Lakers, I saw on Twitter, didn't catch a lot of this game. There were some people complaining that the referees got a little bit too involved in this game, which It is the Lakers. Get them into the playoffs. That's going to happen. The Lakers knocked off Minnesota last night, 108-102 in overtime, overcoming a 15-point deficit. Some of the other things that stood out in that game, Karl Anthony Towns was really held in check in the second half. First half, he has 17 points on 5 of 5 shooting. Second half, just 7 points on 3 of 7. He was 1 of 3 from deep. And Anthony Edwards, of course, their stud for Minnesota, put together probably one of his worst games of his NBA career. 9 points on 3 of 17 shooting. Did not hit a 3. Was 0 for 9. It was 3 or 4 from the free throw line. Did get involved in some other aspects of the game. 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Also had 4 turnovers, though. Of course, Minnesota will have a chance to get in. They got to await tonight's winner of the Thunder and Pelicans. I don't know if you caught any of these games and maybe just had some overall thoughts looking at maybe the box score or what I had in the outline between these two games.
Nothing crazy. I am just a little bit surprised to see the Heat lose. That's really about it.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone listen to Kendrick Perkins. His big comment from last week was, the Celtics fans should be praying that the Heat don't win and the Celtics don't have to play the Heat in the first round. Now they don't, because the Heat, again, kind of choked it away on home court last night, and now might not even get into the playoffs depending how things go. So I don't hate it. We didn't talk about this, but as from previous years of the Celtics playing the Heat, they're a team I don't like to see in the playoffs because the Celtics always tend to kind of play their style of game, which is slow down, which is not good for them. So Miami losing last night, and if they lose again, wouldn't hate that in the slightest.
Neither would I.
All right, fair enough. Anything from that Lakers game? I feel like it was just kind of typical Lakers LeBron team gets into the playoffs and he takes it to another level, because that's what it looked like happened last night from what I was able to kind of piece together and kind of see a little bit.
Yeah, my biggest thing was Anthony Edwards landed dud. To be honest, that was a little surprising.
Yeah,
I just want to give a shout out to the YouTube comments. We have a new listener from the recommended page, so shout out to the YouTube algorithm.
Perfect.
Shout out to Polly in the comments. He is no longer here, but he said good luck the rest of the stream, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
And Matt in the chat said he'd rather play the Heat than Milwaukee. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'd have to have that set up in a perfect world, but maybe maybe we get lucky. Maybe if the Heat do play play Milwaukee, it would be tough for the Heat to play Miami. If they did play the Bucks, then maybe you get an upset there, and Miami is able to set up some sort of series with the Celtics. But of course, we'll have to wait for that and see.
Yes, we shall see.
Yep. So like I said, tonight, Bulls and Raptors, looking at the season series as we kind of run through the play-in games, our first round of the playoffs, at least give our predictions, and then maybe towards the end of things, a little bit of an NBA Finals prediction, stuff like that. Bulls and Raptors tonight, season series. The Raptors won it 2-1. Pretty close games all around the board. You had it in the outline, which is kind of crazy to think about what the history of these two teams. The first time they ever have played each other in the playoffs. Again, maybe if you're someone that doesn't think the play-in game is the playoffs, then you're like, okay, well, that doesn't happen. Like I said, though, winner will face Miami with a shot at the 8th seed to take on Milwaukee. Looking at the two teams, statistic-wise, I'm not going to run through them all, but the Bulls pretty much better in every statistical category: points per game, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and then opponent's field goal percentage and opponent's 3-point percentage. It's going to be a close game, I think. You obviously have stars on both sides. For me, just to get into prediction wise, I have Chicago in this game. I think Zach LaVine, who's starting to play like Zach LaVine from a couple of years ago. DeMar DeRozan's a guy that's been there, has been proven. In the Raptors, last couple of games of the end of the season, obviously there's been talk about them getting rid of their head coach, maybe blowing some things up. They look like a team that's kind of on the way down, not really in it for the end of things. Maybe they surprise me here. But I think it's Chicago. They're probably playing for more. I think they're probably going to come out a little hungrier, being the road team, trying to make another upset. I think they take this game behind strong games from LaVine and DeRozan.
I'm going the opposite. I'm going Raptors.
Good. We have to have some parity here.
And currently the Raptors are at 4.
Nice. I did not know that game started. I thought it was at 8 for some reason.
And the Islanders have taken the lead on the Canadians. Trying to stay alive.
I'd like the Canadians to win that game. Any particular reason why you have the Raptors other than just to be different?
Not really, just vibes.
Okay, fair enough. And they are the home team. You're going to ride the home favorite. I'm going to take the underdog. In the West, maybe not as much parity here. OKC and New Orleans. In that season series, the Pelicans dominated 3-1. Again, all close games. The first 3 all all resulted in close to 3. But that first game was a 4-point game for New Orleans. But then the next 2, 3-point differential. Winner, of course, faces Minnesota for a shot at the 8th seed, taking on the 1 seeded Denver. A little closer here. Pelicans have the majority of the stats again. No Zion Williamson in this one. He apparently is not going to play until he feels 100%. We've talked about Zion Williamson before. It is the playoffs, man. If you're 75%, I think you should probably go. It's the playoffs. This isn't just a regular season game. You obviously have a chance to get in, maybe make a run here. You and I are both picking the Pelicans, though. For me specifically, I feel like you might feel the same way as well. OKC had a good season, but I feel like they're just not there yet. They're a little young. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is obviously a great talent. But I think the Pelicans are a more well-rounded team with some more veterans that have been there. I think that's going to help them overcome any sort of problems they may have in this game.
Yeah, for those reasons, exactly. I'm picking New Orleans as well. In like any sport, I'm pretty much always hesitant to pick the team getting their feet wet a little bit, unless some prevailing reason, pushes me over the top. But yeah, I'm going Pelicans here.
All right, fair enough. I think, like I said, if Gilgeous-Alexander comes out and puts together a phenomenal game, I could see him taking this thing over, but the Pelicans just have more stars or more, like I said, talent wise. OKC's getting there. Of course, they have all those first round picks that'll help that team out down the road. So we'll have to wait and see. Jumping into the Eastern Conference, round one predictions. Of course, like I said, the Bucks, we don't know who they're playing yet. Season series wise, from the three possibilities, if they play Miami, they tied that season series 2-2. If it was Chicago, they also tied there. And if they play Toronto, that one favors Milwaukee 3-1. Surprising that they struggled so much with Miami and Chicago. Is there any potential way in your eyes you see the Bucks losing in round one? No, not at all.
I think they sweep either team.
Really? You have no faith in even with the
yeah. I don't see it.
All right, fair enough. I'm with you. I'm going Bucks no matter who they play. If they play Miami, Bucks in 6. If they play Chicago, Bucks in 5. And if they play Toronto, again, I'm just not high on Toronto at all. Again, I think that was a team that looked like a dead man walking type of thing at the end of the season. I think they sweep Toronto pretty easily in 4 games. But like you said, you have a sweep depending on, I can't believe you don't have like Miami still in 1 game. It's kind of wild, especially with the struggles they had this season, but whatever, that's fine. On to the one we care about, Hawks, Celtics season series. Celtics swept the Hawks 3-0. All pretty, not easily wins, but Celtics played pretty well. Of course, that last game of the season too, where they had really nobody starter wise and bench wise come out and beat the Hawks still. You had in the outline as well, first time playing each other in the playoffs since 2016, played each other every 4 years from 2008, 2016. I did not know that. That's kind of wild. Looking at the stats for it, the Hawks are better than the Celtics in points per game and field goal percentage, but the Celtics have owned everything else. Opponents' points per game, 3-point percentage. Of course, the Celtics are one of the best Eastern Conference teams in shooting the 3, opponent field goal percentage, and opponent 3-point percentage. I mean, there's a lot of things we could talk about for this series. I think the big one for me, at least, is the health of Jaylen Brown going into it. Of course, if people missed it, was watering his plants, broke a vase, cut his hand. I don't know if he's going to be ready for game 1. I saw some things say he might be ready to go like next Wednesday, which of course would put him, I believe, at a game 2 or 3 timeline, which kind of stinks, but it is the Hawks. I'm not all that high on Atlanta. Neither are you. I'm going to pick the Celtics in a sweep here. I think if you can sweep Brooklyn last year with the talent that Brooklyn had to make them look, as putrid as they did, I think they should be able to do the exact same thing to the Hawks. Hawks, have some talent on that team, but I think the Celtics should be able to beat them pretty easily, whether Jaylen Brown misses a game or 2 or not.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a quick series. The Jaylen Brown injury reminds me of like the occasional MLB injury you'll see with like somebody like is out from like a kitchen knife injury, making a sandwich or something.
Flying a drone and cuts their finger. Yeah.
Yeah. Something stupid like that. I'm going Celtics in 5. I think the big X factor is Atlanta's defense is not very good. They allow the 26th or they're 26th ranked in opponents' points per game and opponents' field goal percentage, as you've noted in the outline here. I think that's just going to be really tough to combat. Even if the Celtics have proven, even if they're missing a guy like Tatum or Brown or even Smart at times, someone else usually steps up. So I'm not really concerned, but I'm giving the Hawks a little bit of credit. I think Trae Young will have one crazy game, maybe 2, but not necessarily turning into a win. But if no matter how many he has, I think one of them will turn into a win for the Hawks. But the Celtics wrap it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it should be an interesting series. You have, like you mentioned, the points per game Atlanta. You have the 3 and 4 ranked offenses and points per game going against each other. With the Hawks, of course, taking that. But then you look at the defenses you mentioned. Hawks 26th, the Celtics 5th in opponents' points allowed. So I think that's the difference right there. Of course, other health things too. Rob Williams. I mean, that's going to be the story throughout the entire playoffs. Is he going to be able to stay healthy. Maybe this is a series where if you don't need them a ton, you kind of use them sparingly. But I don't know. Again, I'm with you. Maybe you could see Trae Young go for like a 40 bomb, a 50 bomb, and stun the Celtics in one game. But I think the overall talent of the Celtics is too much for Atlanta to handle. From a playoff schedule, because that has come out. Again, for the more Celtics specific people listening, game 1 Saturday at 3:30. Game 2 is Tuesday night at 7. Game 3 Friday at 7. Game 4 Sunday at 7, and then games 5, 6, and 7 all to be determined. Game 5 is Tuesday. Game 6 is Thursday. Game 7 is Saturday. But of course, maybe they don't need those last 3 games. In my prediction, that would be the case. In yours, they would need, of course, that Tuesday game to finish things off. But of course, we will wait and see on that. Moving right along in the Eastern Conference, maybe I think the most lopsided, again, if you think that Celtics and Hawks series, but Brooklyn and Philadelphia, the 76ers swept the season series 4-0, won all those games pretty easily. 76ers have the Nets in pretty much everything except for field goal percentage and I believe opponents' field goal percentage. They probably have the MVP of the league on the team, Joel Embiid. The Nets, I don't feel like have anyone that can guard him. I know Mikal Bridges has really blossomed into a star with that team since being traded there, of course, but this to me it's all 76ers. Maybe Brooklyn's able to steal a game at home. I have 76ers in 5.
Me also, and typically I would pick against the 76ers.
Mm-hmm.
And if Durant and Irving were still in Brooklyn.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Those two dicks versus Harden would have been an all-time dickhead series.
It would have been an absolute just cluster F of shitheads.
But the Nets just don't have enough talent. This will be a nice little Mickey Mouse first round series win for the 76ers, only to lose in the second round. So
works for me.
Forward to that.
Yep. Then the final of the Eastern Conference matchups. This is probably going to be the most exciting because I feel like these teams are probably the closest with each other out of all the matchups. Knicks and Cavaliers. The Knicks surprisingly won the season series. I was shocked when I saw this. Knicks won 3-1. You have it in the outline again. First time playing each other in the playoffs since 1996. Again, pretty even matchup. The Cavaliers, 3 categories. Opponents' points per game. They were the number 1 ranked defense in the league. Field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. The Knicks have them in points per game. Opponents' field goal percentage. Knicks were pretty good there, the 3rd best in the league. And opponents' 3-point percentage. Looking at this game, I think the key for the Knicks, how healthy is Julius Randle? How hampered is he by his ankle injury if he plays? Knicks will obviously give him a series. If he's hampered, maybe the Cavaliers are able to finish things off pretty quickly. But I thought I saw the other day he might not be ready to go until the middle of the series. Maybe the Knicks can prolong it if they get down. If he comes back, maybe he's a spark there. I had the Cavs in 7. They were pretty good all season. They brought in Donovan Mitchell, obviously, to get to this point and get over the hump. I think he's going to do that. He's obviously a great playoff performer. I have the Cavs winning it in 7.
Yeah, I have Cavs in 6. I did not know or expect that the Cavs would have the best numbers in limiting opponents' points per game at 106.9. That's pretty impressive. Didn't know they were that good defensively.
I didn't either.
At least for the most part, they're not amazing in every category as we have listed here, but I'm going Cavs in 6. I think this team has been building something the last 2-3 years, especially last year. And they're going to show it, and they're going to beat the Knicks. I agree. This seems like it's going to be one of the more competitive first round matchups, and as it should be, as a 4 and 5 seed. So this should be a fun one. Yeah,
I mean, there's both stars on either side. Kind of mini big threes for both teams, depending on how you look at it. So I feel like it could go either way. This is really out of all of them. I feel like the coin flip type of game or type of series rather, where you could just see back and forth. These two teams beat each other up and last man standing type of thing. On to the Western Conference. Again, we don't know who Denver is playing. If they play Minnesota, that season series was tied 2-2. If they play the Pelicans, New Orleans actually took that one 2-1. And if they play OKC, Denver manhandled them in that one 3-1. Kind of the same question I asked about Milwaukee. Is there any way you see any of these 3 teams beating them? If you had to pick one, what team do you think gives Denver the most difficulty if they get them?
New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say Minnesota, but I mean, the whole Rudy
Minnesota,
Gobert thing, we didn't really talk about that, him punching his teammate, if he even plays in these playoff games or not, or what the
Jaden McDaniels fracturing his fucking hand.
Yeah, that
team
team
is in shambles. They're going to be an easy out if they face the Nuggets, I think.
Mhm.
I think New Orleans has a chance. I think they'd have a better one if they had Zion, but that guy
Yep.
can't stay healthy. And
Maybe he plays in that series. Maybe he sees this as as an important series to play in instead of the playing game to actually get you there. Who knows?
I don't know. And OKC, this will just be cruel and unusual punishment for them
Yep.
if they play the Nuggets. That won't end well, and I would feel bad for them. So
I would,
I'm going Nuggets in 4, Bucks in 4. The 1 seeds get cupcake
Very
first
easy
rounds.
start, yeah, for the 1 seeds. Same thing like Milwaukee. It depends on who they play. If the Nuggets play Minnesota, Karl Anthony Towns plays well. I think he might give Jokic a little bit of a run for his money. 2 pretty balanced teams, but the Nuggets take that series in 6. If Denver plays New Orleans, again, I don't think Zion will play, so Denver will dominate that. Jokic particularly in 5. And then same as you, like if it's OKC, again, OKC had a very nice season up and coming, but I think Denver is going to sweep them. I think they finished them off pretty easily. Moving on to the 2 versus 7, we know that's the Lakers and Grizzlies. This one's going to be a hell of an entertaining series just because of all the stuff that happened during the regular season. With the 2 teams going at it, a lot of trash talking on Twitter, stuff like that. The Lakers took the season series 2 games to 1. Again, pretty close games, except for maybe that second one where Memphis beat them 121-109. First time they've ever played each other in the playoffs, as you have here. That's not all that surprising because Memphis, not a huge playoff team until these last couple of years. For me, it may be a surprise to some. I have the Lakers upsetting. Again, I think you saw it last night. LeBron, hungry to get back into the playoffs and hungry to perform well. Anthony Davis, when he's on his game, is still one of the best big men in the league if he stays healthy. I think they gave the Grizzlies some problems. I think the Grizzlies are, I don't want to say frauds completely, but I think there's maybe a little bit more bark than bite with that team. If you kind of get my gist here of what, a lot of, like I said, a lot of trash talking, but not being able to back it up. And of course, obviously the stuff that happened to them this season off the court. I have Lakers in 6 in this one, but you were differing from me.
I am. I can't trust this Lakers team, and a little more so than the Cavs. I think this is a team trying to prove themselves, been building towards this for a little bit. I'm going Grizzlies in 5. I think LeBron goes out sad in this series. He is trending upwards lately, but I think the Grizzlies are going to surprise people. This is my shocker of the first round. I'm going Grizzlies in 5.
That is crazy to say because it's a 2 versus 7, but like there is a ton of experience on one side. Obviously, a guy that has won it plenty of times in LeBron and the Lakers, but yeah, I think maybe it'll come as a surprise to some people if the Grizzlies are able to knock off the Lakers. I could definitely see it, but again, we've lived through it too many times. You count out LeBron, bad things tend to happen. So we'll have to wait and see on that.
I will take the consequences.
Fair enough.
I need to.
I feel like it's somebody, either DraftKings or FanDuel, there should be some sort of over-under bet of how many like fist fights will happen in this game. Because I feel like it's going to be, out of all the series, like there's going to be a lot of turmoil in this one. And maybe some fisticuffs, as you have said in the past, well known that you want enforcers in the NBA.
Yes.
This might be your series to have them.
Yes.
Mm.
Bring someone sign Aaron Baines.
Just bring him out for that. Oh, I mean, I think the Lakers signed, was it the Lakers or the Bulls? I think it was the Lakers signed Tristan Thompson. Yeah. So there you go. There's maybe, absolutely. But maybe there's your
what has he
enforcer.
done more of? Played for a number of NBA teams or cheated on Kim?
Ooh, that's probably tough.
What's more, do you think?
Probably the cheating number, if I had to guess. At this point, maybe the Lakers, that's maybe what they saw and were like, hey, we can get the numbers back even, so we'll sign him. But
he's the Will Chamberlain of cheating, dude. Like
that's for sure. Absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah. Again, here, the seating's probably a little, maybe depending on how you look at the Kings, but the seating maybe a little off here with this one. 6-seeded Warriors taking on the 3-seeded Kings. Warriors, maybe to no surprise of anyone, took the season series 3 games to 1. First time they have played each other in the playoffs in NBA history. This one, to me, it's kind of the same thing. Don't count out LeBron until he proves, otherwise. It's the Warriors in the NBA playoffs against the Sacramento Kings. The Kings, of course, have had a great season. They've had a great season. They're building towards something. Gotta love the motorcycles coming out in the summertime.
Yeah, I was gonna say your mic got all distorted there for a second.
It did. I had a guy blow down my street at 100. Yeah, it wasn't good. But no, to finish my thought, it's the Warriors and the Kings in the playoffs. Like the Kings, again, great season, but one of the, I feel like, more so loser franchises in the NBA just because of track record and stuff like that. Warriors in 5, like the Warriors could go in as the 8th seed and they could still probably run through the Western Conference because that's what they do. They're, like I said, you don't count them out. I know their away record has been horrible this season, just 11-30 away from.
Freaking crazy.
It is. They were one of the best home teams in the NBA and one of the worst road teams. So maybe that's a factor in this one. Maybe the Kings surprise some people, but you are in agreement with me. You do not see that happening.
Yeah, I'm in on the Warriors. I mean, they're the Warriors. I'm saying this because I always get Sacramento and San Antonio mixed up. Which one's in Texas? Which one is in California? And I just
Quite the
want to
ways away.
throw out a stat.
Okay.
I forget what year it was, but this is the first time in like I think 20 years that no Texas basketball teams in the NBA are in the playoffs.
That is surprising. I did not know that. Thank you for that little tidbit of information.
Because the Mavericks, I mean, what the hell was that?
I know. Oh, I could tell you what it was. It's clear as day what it was. It's you're in the playoffs one day, you make one trade just like that for one certain player that I think is at this point become a problem just of any team that gets them. You throw the locker room cancer, locker room headache term around. I think Kyrie Irving has, become that. And I think that's what kind of derailed the Mavericks there. Go back and look at it. Playoff team before the trade. Now they're golfing, fishing, going on vacations. Cancun on 3.
Yeah, like Kyrie is the real life equivalent of No David from the children's book. You remember that book? Little bald kid.
Yeah. The little kid that was just a pain in the ass. Yeah. Yep.
Just a pain in the ass.
Just lives for trouble.
Yeah. I mean,
great pull. Yeah. I do remember that now.
I don't know. It just came to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Kings, they're a pretty good team, but first time in the playoffs and God knows how long. They'll get humbled and, they'll learn from it in the future, hopefully.
Absolutely. I mean, just from what we watched last season, would love to see them knock off Golden State, because if Golden State wins one series and goes on a run, look the F out. That team scares me in the playoffs, as I feel like they should because of what happened last season. Last matchup, Clippers and Suns. Again, a pretty even one here. Depending on when Paul George comes back, he's out to start the series. Again, there's really no timetable for his return in it. Season series tied 2-2, as you might expect with these two big teams. But of course, a couple of those games, the Suns did not have Kevin Durant. He is healthy. He is back. And I think he's going to be the big difference in this series. I have the Suns in 6. Again, if Paul George is able to come back and play well, maybe the Clippers make a series out of it. Maybe they pull off an upset, because we've seen the Suns kind of falter in the big moment in the playoffs before. But having Kevin Durant there obviously helps you out a ton. Booker's playing really well. Chris Paul obviously has been there before, but I think it's the Suns to take. They're a little too more talented, have a couple extra pieces than the Clippers do. So I have Phoenix in 6.
Yeah, I think Durant is a huge X factor if he can stay healthy. We know he's had trouble with his health in the past few years. But yeah, speaking of injuries, like you said with Paul George, I think that's going to affect the Clippers a lot. And I just can't trust them. They never seem to do anything super significant in the playoffs. Yep. I don't know if that's going to change this year. Nothing of, seeing following the NBA, sparingly like I do, tells me that things are going to be different. So I'm going to go with the Suns. They push all their chips onto the table with Kevin Durant. Yeah, I think they're just going to pull it off.
All right, fair enough. So like I said, we're going to do, obviously, not run through the entire playoffs that we just give before everything starts up, our Eastern Conference, Western Conference, and NBA Finals predictions. I'll start with mine. Of course, I have Celtics over Bucks in 6, the MVP of that series, because, of course, they started giving out MVPs to the conference finals winners. Jason Tatum wins it for a second straight season. In the Western Conference, I have the Suns over the Lakers. I have the Lakers going on a little bit of a run. Going through, I'm looking at my bracket. I think the Lakers, they take down Denver for me, and then a matchup of LeBron versus Kevin Durant in the Western Conference Finals. I think that'll be a hell of an entertaining series. Like I said, Suns take it, though, in 7. Kevin Durant is the MVP there, setting up a Celtics-Suns NBA Finals, and I have the Celtics taking it in 6. Jason Tatum wins that MVP as well to finish off the trifecta of MVPs. Of course, the All-Star Game MVP he won, and then, like I said, the 2 MVPs that he wins in this one.
I like it.
Thank you. No bias whatsoever.
Lakers, I'm a little surprised to see the Lakers because
I'm trying to. I went back and looked at my bracket. I know I wasn't going to say I didn't want to get into it too much for the sake of time. But just to really run through it quickly, I had Denver over Minnesota in the first round, the Lakers over Memphis, Warriors over Sacramento, like I just said, Phoenix over the Clippers, setting up Denver and LA. For the Lakers to take that in 7, Phoenix over Golden State. That's what it was. It was Durant versus Steph Curry. Phoenix takes that in 7, setting up a Lakers.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Denver, again, Jokic is a great player, but we've seen it time and time again. They don't ever seem to have enough to get deep into the playoffs. So I think, again, the Lakers, if they get hot, if LeBron is, on some sort of revenge tour after missing the playoffs, a couple times, I think you could maybe, look out. And again, the Lakers, it all depends on health for them. I think they have a pretty deep team after some trade deadline moves. They got to stay healthy, though. They got to stay consistent. If they don't, could very well see them as, like you have, a first-round exit against Memphis. But we'll see. Celtics-Lakers, if that happened in the finals, that'd be one hell of a storyline too, to see
Oh,
what team
that'd
can
be
get banner
awesome.
18. But
Be awesome. Celtics in 5 or 6. I got Celtics over Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games. I'm going to go with Tatum as well. I'm high on the Nuggets this year. I feel like Jokic has a lot to prove. There's been a lot of, Embiid versus Jokic, like who's the MVP, who's, the best player in the league, whatever.
mhm.
You may be getting in on NBA Twitter if you're one of those people. I don't know. I just gut feeling. I feel like Jokic is going to go off and help the Nuggets make a run. I have them beating the Warriors in 6 in the Western Conference Finals, and Jokic winning MVP. And the Celtics going the distance and beating the Nuggets in 7 with Jason Tatum winning another MVP.
I like it. Like I said, no bias whatsoever between the two of us
No
with our
bias.
NBA Finals prediction.
Hey, I'm sticking with it, man. I've stuck by this team. I haven't panicked. I
True.
picked them to win preseason. Picked Jason Tatum to win MVP. Don't think that's going to happen, but he'll be in the mix a little bit.
Yeah, I
he'll
think
get some consideration.
he'll get a top 5 consideration for sure. But like you said, it's going to come down to Jokic, and the top 3. If I had to pick right now, it'll probably be Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis as the 3 finalists. And I think Embiid's it's finally. I hate that I picked Embiid last year as my NBA finals, or not finals, my NBA, I think MVP prediction. Who did you have? I know you had Celtics. You said at the start. Did you have Celtics Nuggets as your preseason prediction? Do you remember?
No, I'm pretty sure I had a Celtics Warriors rematch.
Did you? Okay, because I
Which
think I
could
had
honestly
Celtics.
happen.
I think I had Celtics Clippers, but again, like if the Clippers weren't playing the Suns in the first round of the playoffs, I might pick them to go a little deeper, but that's just such a tough team to go through, like you said, with Durant, that big 3, big 4, if you throw DeAndre Ayton in there as well. So it'll be tough for them to get to the finals.
It sure will. It's going to be fun. We'll have the NHL more in a clearer picture next week for sure. We'll have shit underway as well. I'm
sure there'll be no bias with our Stanley Cup picks and who's going to win that as well. So get ready for that.
Yeah, certainly. That is going to wrap it up for episode 138 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Selling Cratty Pod. You can find us on TikTok as well if you throw the name of the podcast into the search bar. And we'll talk to you next week. NHL playoffs and much more. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, all that good stuff. And we will talk to you then. Peace out.